So Doc started writing sexy storylines for her because he started to view the character differently.
Why don't you put that crap down and come over here?
FlynnsArcade.
Hi, this is FlynnsArcade, and this is my video about the Venture Bros episode Showdown at Cremation Creek Part 1. Let's go. It's the Monarch and Dr Girlfriend's wedding day, and a stag party prank leads to Dr Venture being unexpectedly invited to be the best man at the wedding. We know from the outset that this is not going to be a normal episode. It doesn't contain the usual title sequence, instead it contains this.
Okay, apparently you lost your hearing as well as your arms.
I mean, that's really cinematographic.
I said I'm getting married to your girlfriend.
Yes, I heard you.
Hey, you surprised me, Lim. You're taking this pretty well. Thought you'd try to kill me.
I'm no fool.
And it sets a really somber tone for this episode. It's not going to be a funny one. You know it's going to be very dense and plot laden from the get-go, and it really is. And a special mention to the way that the names of the characters and the actors are up on the screen there, because that makes it look really cinematographic. And also you might have noticed that the super special guests are mentioned, and we all know who that's referring to. And unfortunately the voice actor isn't the person we hope he is. This episode is a wedding finale, and that's a classic trope, and the wedding is a culmination of the Monarch and Dr Girlfriend story arc following their breakup at the end of season 1. A wedding is a great way to reunite characters that we haven't seen for a while, and here we'll see Henry Killinger coming back to act as the marriage celebrant for the Monarch and Dr Girlfriend.
Sorry.
Dearly beloved.
It's really nice to see him again, and considering the part he played getting the Monarch and Dr Girlfriend back together, his role at the wedding is more than appropriate. There's a section in the book describing how Dr Girlfriend wasn't a sexy character in the pilot episode.
Bag of carrot pretzels. That's all they had in the minibar.
Why don't you put that crap down and come over here?
Hello, girls.
But as we can see there, that she really is a sexy character now. And the reason for this change in character was because Ben Lovelace did all the storyboarding at this point, and he just draws women in quite a curvaceous, sexy way. So Doc started writing sexy storylines for her because he started to view the character differently as a glamorous woman. And this led to the love triangle that's been the story arc throughout this season. This is quite an interesting characterisation story because, as every fan knows, Dr Girlfriend is quite the sex symbol amongst cosplayers. This character change fueled one of the biggest story arcs of season 2, the love triangle between Dr Girlfriend, the Monarch and Phantom Limb. This story arc was a real high spot for me. It was a classic love triangle where Dr Girlfriend was torn between the reliable, if boring Phantom Limb and the exciting but unreliable Monarch. This type of love triangle is a tale as old as time, but this time it's told using supervillains. And this love triangle has further been expanded to become a love pentagram in this episode, because now we're involving Dr Venture and more recently Gary, who professed his love for Dr Girlfriend back in I Know Why the Caged Bird Kills. And here's a new section I'm doing in my videos, cultural references. There's quite a lot in the Venture Bros and this episode contains loads of them. Here we'll see The Alchemist referencing The Residents.
Hey, look! I'm in The Residents!
They're an American art collective and rotten art rock band. Interestingly enough, they actually did some work with Dark Horse Publishing, who published my Venture Bros book, so that's a nice bit of trivia right there. And The Tenderloin.
Yeah, some of us were still pretty wired, and so we decided to pick up a case and hit the Tenderloin.
Which is a neighbourhood in downtown San Francisco. And here we'll see the tattoo design that Gary chooses for his first tattoo.
And who should we see not like 10 feet away getting himself a sweet friggin' tat?
You see, Gary's tattoo is of a butterfly and it's on his lower back. It's also kind of fancy tribal. That was a really popular style and placement for tattoos for young women in the late 90s and early 2000s. it was so popular it even earns the derogatory name, the tramp stamp. It was a really clever thing to include as Gary's first tattoo, because I'm sure a lot of people had something very similar as their first tattoo. Doc Hammer's really is a big fan of tattoos, so that was a really clever observation there. And here I learned about nickel nips.
Very bag. 5 packs of nickel nips.
Maybe after we have filled our bellies with the supernatural. There is much to do.
Yeah, like watch JT go blind on red-flavored sugar water.
Orpheus, get the insulin.
It's been a while.
What's that? You say you're waxy good. Oh, you tease.
No, I've learned of them. They sound absolutely awesome. I even considered buying some because they sell them on Amazon, but they cost like £10 a pack, and I'm not paying that for nickel nips. I'm just going to wait for them to show up in the world's food aisle in Sainsbury's. And there's a new character called Princess Tiny Feet. In the book it says that she's named after a mistake that Doc Hammer made when he learned the name of the band Tiny Meat. Interesting sidebar, I looked up Tiny Meat when researching this video, and they're a post-punk band from Dublin. They're quite good. I mean, I've not listened to them that much, I just listened to one song, but I found a really funny clip of them playing on The Late Late Show. They played an experimental track in front of a really bemused audience. So if you fancy a bit of a laugh after you finish this video, please go and check it out, because you won't come away empty-handed. It's not the song that's funny, it's the whole setup is so cringe, it's definitely worth checking out. And here we'll see David Bowie showing up.
David Bowie. Brock Simpson. It's been a while.
I just like the way it says celebrity voice impersonated. From all accounts, Doc and Jackson seriously tried to get David Bowie to appear in this episode, and they never got a definite no from him, so we can all just imagine what would have actually have happened if he'd have been in this episode. Weird story, but I recently learned that Chris Chan was supposed to do a bit part in Smiling Friends, and I find that very funny, but compare that with what would have been if David Bowie had been on the Venture Brothers. It's very different. Moving on to the jokes. The scene where the Monarch proposes to Dr. Girlfriend is incredibly heartwarming and romantic. However, the tone is lowered quite a bit by this comment by the Monarch.
Get your ass back in that bed.
But we need to make some ground rules. 1, no more of this I need my space, you're crowding me crap.
Fine, whatever. But where were you hiding that list?
2, I'm not your number 2, I'm your partner.
Okay, I'll get you a crown or something. Anything else on that magic and probably moist list of yours?
Yes.
So yeah, he has a point, because she's apparently nude and just wearing a blanket there, but yeah, it adds a bit of comedy to an otherwise very tender moment between the pair. And here we'll see Phantom Limb stretching the metaphor a bit too far.
Revenge, like gazpacho soup, is best served cold, precise, and merciless.
Oh, yeah, you can never have enough precision in your soup.
I mean, full credit to the Monarch there for giving grief to Phantom Limb when he's actually holding a weapon there, but it's like, and at this point as well, that whilst Phantom Limb is apparently incredibly terrifying, these sorts of comments, they really lower his fear factor quite a bit. And next we have this scene where Gary describes his adventures at the Monarch stag party.
Yeah, but once this cowardly lion got himself some courage from the Wizard of Booze, we went in there. Stand by. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like the Wizard of Booze joke, and also the fact he spews after saying it is pretty funny as well. I mean, he has got quite a bad hangover in this episode, so we'll let that pass, but come on, Gary. And there's some nice physical comedy here where the henchmen get the jump on Brock.
Now there were, of course, the predictable casualties.
Of course.
But once he was like totally out of the picture.
Yeah, that's great. I only noticed today that he actually appears to remove one of the henchmen's jaw bones in this clip, and and uses that to assault the other henchman. But the bit that I really like is when he colours in the henchman's face with a tattoo machine. I've always enjoyed that. And here we'll see Dr. Girlfriend's reaction to finding the Venture family in the cocoon.
I'm gonna start getting dressed. I just want to... What the...
Funny face!
I can't believe you! You couldn't—
I'm not surprised she's so upset, but that reaction and the comment from the Monarch, brilliant. And here we'll see Dr. Girlfriend's reaction when Dr. Venture attempts to use a chat-up line on her.
I brought you something blue.
Me. Ugh.
Yeah, what a reaction. I mean, she's definitely gotten over any feelings she might have had for him in the past. It's pretty funny that the Monarchs managed to convince the whole Venture family to attend his wedding. But as we see here, Brock really takes that to the next level.
Holy, that guy is almost a truck!
Truculles?
Yeah, here you are and your guest.
Kim Stag, friend. This big old rig takes up 2 seats.
Okay, but you only get 1 bag of Jordan almonds. Right side, 4th row, seat 6, 7.
It's one thing that the Venture family are in attendance at the wedding, but it's quite another that Brock's wound up being an usher there. I mean, that's an important role at a wedding, and, you know, Brock's incredibly sensible, but how's he got roped into doing this? And here we'll see some gross-out comedy relating to Sergeant Hatrid's foot fetish.
Sushi?
Oh, look at those perfect little toes, so plump. Like little niblets, like little corn niblets.
Mace.
Oh, that's right, honey. Hot damn it, those things are beautiful.
I mean, how inappropriate. They're literally at a wedding and they're sat next to, like, could it be? I don't think they think Hank's a kid, but yeah, come on, that's all kinds of wrong. And here we'll see the Monarch's reaction to Phantom Lim's surprise attack.
Phantom Limb, you are surrounded.
Ow! Dick, move!
I've just always enjoyed the way that he shouts "Dick, move." I mean, it's just a very serious situation, but he reacts in a really plausible way and a really funny way too. If you're enjoying this episode, please could you do me a massive favour and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And now, on with the video. And now on to the character development. The Monarch has finally admitted up to himself and everyone else that Dr. Girlfriend is the most important person in his life, even more important than Dr. Venture. As a viewer, we'd known this since the episode Return to Spider Skull Island, when the Monarch was obsessing about Dr. Girlfriend whilst in prison. But now everyone else knows. The events of this episode really bring out the dark side of Phantom Limb.
Well, was that Mr. Monday?
Oh, yes. You two were in prison together, were you not?
I saw him around, I think.
Oh.
That's really dark.
You'll be surprised at the array of wildlife here on the grounds. Wonder what other game we could scare up.
Doctor Septopus.
Oh, don't tell me. Not another one of your former prison mates. What are the odds?
I mean, Phantom Limb is taking out various people who were inmates with the Monarch when he was in prison, but the Monarch has literally just spoke to him about how he's going to marry his girlfriend, and Phantom Limb's holding a gun. I mean, the Monarch must be absolutely terrified. Phantom Limb is normally calm and collected most of the time, but he has form for going psycho over Dr. Girlfriend. We last saw this back in the Victor Echo November episode when he took out a hit on the whole Venture family in a misguided attempt to impress her, but now he really has something to worry about and the Monarch should definitely be careful here. So here we'll see Phantom Limb getting some well-meaning but ultimately unhelpful advice from the Sovereign.
It matters not that you were dumped, and that's kinda, you know.
I understand, Sovereign.
May I suggest you start a journal? There you could pour out your woes upon the tear-stained pages of Dear Diary.
That is an excellent suggestion, my liege.
Or maybe go jogging with friends.
I shall do just that. You honour me, my master.
It's very good advice that the Sovereign's given him there, because that's exactly what you should do if you've been dumped. It's definitely a very healthy way of moving forward.
So I have your word then. No movement on the Monarch.
You have my word.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad we got this wrapped up. I've got a wedding to get to. Oh, I'm gonna go.
But as we can see, Phantom Limb looks absolutely heartbroken in this scene, and like the Sovereign's like closing comment about "I've got a wedding to go to," that's really like insensitive is the word for it. It's incredibly insensitive. So this is what fuels all the problems throughout the episode. It's you know, finally Phantom Limb snapped. Hank and Dean have very different experiences during this episode, as we can see here when Hank hangs out with Gary whilst they're waiting for the wedding.
Beans? The beard comes off? Helloski! I am, how you say, Russian Gayovich.
Hank, you should totally grow one of those. You look like Green Arrow. Or like the mirror version of Hank.
Yeah, evil Hank.
Yeah.
You see, they're having a great time, and it's nice to see Hank and Gary hanging out together because they seem to have a lot in common. But here we'll see how Dean gets on whilst hanging out with 24.
So, you, like being
A dean?
Yeah, a dean. Emma's kind of, suck.
Oh, come on, that boy.
So the fortunes of the two boys are very different. I mean, they couldn't be any more different. That whilst Hank's having an amazing time with Gary, Dean is not getting on well with 24 at all. And it's, during the course of this episode, we'll see that the two boys have very different experiences during their time in the cocoon. And here we'll see the penny finally dropping with Dr. Venture as to who Charlene really is.
See you later, Mr. Girlfriend.
A bientôt, Dr. and Mrs. Monarch.
I mean, that's really funny because whilst Dr. Girlfriend looked pretty different when she was Charlene, she didn't make any attempt to disguise her voice, so Dr. Venture must be pretty dense that he's not put two and two together up until this point, but...
You dog, you.
You know, he's Dr. Venture. I mean, that Charlene disguise was like a Team Rocket disguise, but it seems to have really fooled him. Back in the Midlife Chrysalis episode, I was convinced that Dr. Girlfriend actually did develop genuine feelings for Dr. Venture, but as we can see in this clip, she's gotten over them by now.
I know that we worked, and I know as sure as sugar that you planned this whole thing.
Oh, yes, exactly. That was my big dream. I wanted to get the Monarch and Dr. Venture together, and then do them both.
I'm not willing to share you. You have?
Back in the Midlife Chrysalis episode, I was pretty sure that Dr. Girlfriend had developed feelings towards Dr. Venture, but as we can see in this episode, she's long since gotten over them. I mean, she's been through a lot since those days. The Monarch has seen a lot of personal growth and self-reflection. Back in season 1, he wasn't appreciative of her, which may have pushed her towards Dr. Venture, who in spite of his creepy ways, seemed to genuinely love her. But any attraction she may have once felt is now long forgotten. And in this episode, we finally meet Sergeant Hatred.
You are next to Sergeant Hatred and Guest.
No. Look at that, honey. Look at that. Tell me those aren't the monitors from my old hover tank. What the hell kind of a deal is this? Kind of a shabby operation they run in here.
You're not gonna bad touch me, are you?
Do I know, honey? Do we know him?
Up until this point, there's two facts we know about Sergeant Hatred. One is that the Monarch and his henchmen rip him off on a regular basis. Two is that he's essayed Hank and Dean before. And this is all brought out, and the first moment we see him, we're reminded of all these horrible things about him. The origin of Sergeant Hatred was the time that Doc and Jackson saw a guy blatantly looking at foot fetish pornography in a Starbucks on his laptop without any concern for the comfort of his fellow customers. They both started joking together and named the man Sergeant Hatred. And thus, the character was born. So as to the rating, I'm giving this a solid 8 out of 10. It was a pretty good episode. The only reason it's not getting a full 10 is partly because of the David Bowie thing. It's really disappointing to find out it's not actually David Bowie, because that would have been really cool, and you know, I feel quite sad about that. But also it's a very dense episode, and it feels like it's there to tie up all the loose ends that developed over season 2. So that makes it feel a bit rushed, and so which means that I didn't enjoy it as much as some of the more concise episodes. It feels a bit like it's sprawling. It feels like it's in a bit of a rush to like finish off a lot of loose threads, and that reduces the score slightly. But it's still a pretty good episode, and I enjoyed watching it. So please let me know what you think. Did you enjoy this episode? Were you disappointed about the David Bowie thing? Did you agree with me about the various points that I've made? please let me know in the comments. If you don't know what to write, please could you drop me a Go Team Venture or an Ignore Me or a Spanakopter, because apparently comments really help the algorithm, and so I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please could you drop the video a like and subscribe to the channel. So unless something else comes up in the meantime, I'll see you next Sunday.